जी, आपने समय निकाला हमसे बातचीत की, उसके लिए आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। All right, Senior Advocate Siddharth Luthra, former ASG, is also with us on the broadcast. Mr. Luthra, I appreciate you taking out the time and speaking with us. So, what do you make of this implementation? Is this, for the lack of a better word, going to rock the boat, or is it going to stabilize our already rocking boat?
So there are two ways to look at it. One, the constitution when it was enacted had talked of having a UCC. So I think that's something which we must understand, but it was consciously kept in the directive principles part that where the state could, as a matter of policy, choose to bring it in. Today we have one state which has sought to bring it in. They've also got into this domain of live-in rights, which is uh, a matter of the state prerogative. Whether it will stand up in court or not is a separate matter. What we really need to understand is what does it mean? It means that property rights and matrimonial rights and rights flowing out of matrimony will be governed consistently for all citizens. Now, there is a line of argument which will say this is an interference with personal laws because remember, we have the codified Hindu personal laws, we have the Indian Divorce Act, we also have Muslim law which is enacted in terms of, which is really in terms of the norms which apply to in Islamic law. So, and of course, there are various other religious denominations who have their own rules and regulations which govern the form and structure of marriage. Today, what you're really going to be doing is, if I, let us say, if I'm not talking about myself, but as an individual, if as Hindu you want to carry out your matrimonial ceremonies, and by all means carry it out, but you will have to get that marriage registered according to a centralized legislation. Earlier it was optional, now it is mandatory. That is the difference. To my mind, one of the things which it will perhaps also clear is there is this entire controversy regarding love jihad. Today, the fact is, this is bringing a level of, at one level, it is bringing a level of equality that as any Indian can marry any other Indian. It's a matter of declaration, please go ahead and marry. So it's a matter of choice. Perhaps not the intended result which the Uttarakhand government wanted, but that is, of course, the intended result. So it's something which we are going to see as it develops. Will it follow to the other states? It can. Why not? It's in the directive principles. It's a prerogative of the state legislature. Will it be upheld by the Supreme Court or the High Courts if in the event there is a constitutional challenge? That is also yet to see. It's too premature. But as I have understood it, I think it is in some ways a way forward for society at large, perhaps to make us a more cohesive society. And what does any nation want? That you please practice your personal laws, your personal rights, your religion, your Diwali, your Eid yourself. Nobody should interfere with that. However, in matters of matrimony, in matters of inheritance, let's have some level of uniformity and, of course, adoption. So these are the three areas which are now sought to be governed by this legislation. Something to be examined, considered, and then really delved into.
And Mr. Luthra, what about the implementation bit? Is there going to be a level of sensitization that needs to be done for the people and the agencies who are going to be implementing this? Are people who are opposed to it going to show any kind of a resistance on ground when it comes to implementing this? How do you see that being planned, the execution bit?
So the problem with all our laws is that there are two sides to the spectrum. One side is saying there is a constitutional victory. The other side is saying there is a victory of majoritarianism and this is not fair. But the point is, I think as in any legislation, any social legislation, let me take you back to the time in the 1950s when we had Hindu law reform. There was a major pushback because a lot of it people said was going against the grain of what defined Hindu religion, and the issue was really that government had to carry out a lot of conversation with people to try and convince them that this was the way forward. Eventually, we were not able to bring in regulation and reform for other religious communities in India. And that is where it failed in the 50s beyond a point. The experiment failed. Today, the purpose behind, and I would possibly suggest is, so you've gotten the UCC in the state, first, before you begin implementation, defer implementation till people have clarity as to what this issue is about. For example, CAA, the Citizen Amendment Act, it perhaps should have been discussed amongst the public, dissemination. Government should have gone across and told people that this is really not affecting your right. This is a way forward for us as a society as a whole. And secondly, about sensitization, I don't know why they put in criminal prosecution. It's rather unfortunate. But then there is a tendency in the Indian state, and when I mean the state, means not just Uttarakhand, the Indian administration, government, all across, irrespective of which political party, that if you don't like somebody, you don't like something, just prosecute the act. Now this is a problem. In personal laws, criminal prosecution, invocation of criminal provisions has created havoc already in the context of cruelty matters, in the context of dowry deaths, which were already covered under various provisions of the code. But today you see the large bulk of litigation in the courts, a large substantial bulk in the criminal courts is matrimonial cases, 498A IPC as it was, and now in the new BNSS there's a similar provision. So these are things which we have to decide that there are personal laws should best be governed by civil law courts and civil domain remedies and not criminality. So criminality has been brought in. I fear, and I must say this, that unless the authorities are sensitized not to be trigger happy invoking criminal provisions and to be nuanced in the implementation of the law, this law will meet a lot of resistance, and that is something which it is the duty and it is incumbent on the state government to go out to the people at large, guide them, explain to them the nuances of the law, their rights that are now available to various sections of the population, what has been curtailed, the practices that have been curtailed, and once you've done that, implement it, defer the implementation, don't rush into it as if it's a issue which is going to garner votes, but treat it as a social move to try and improve the lot of various sections of society.
All right, Mr. Luthra, appreciate, sir, you took out the time and spoke to us. Thank you so much. Sumit Peer, senior political commentator, also with us on the platform.